There's a lot of theories that are going around. Conspiracy theories. Theories about the real meaning behind television shows. Theories behind video games. Sometimes those theories turn out to actually be true. When they are, it's really freaky. Usually I find myself getting caught up and just zone out and think about them all the time. I don't know, Rose. Makes me wonder if these pastas that we're about to read, if they might be real or not. Maybe we should research and find out if they are.
Hey Mingo. So, since today we are doing theories, I'm technically not doing a post-it today. But it is my all-time favorite theory from my all-time favorite game. And since this is my channel, my rules, yeah. Anyways, and this is called Could Link Be Dead in Majora's Mask? It seems as though most people have accepted the idea that Majora's Mask takes place in an alternate dimension version of Hyrule, which is why a lot of the characters from Ocarina of Time appear in the game. While it's no secret, I'm not particularly keen on Majora's Mask, and to clarify this time, I'm not saying it's a bad game. I just think most other Zelda games are better. There are a lot of theories revolving around it. What certain aspects represent and different interpretations of what people say or do. And I absolutely love finding out about all these theories. I'm a huge fan of Matt Pat and his game theory series, though most videos are viewed with a pinch of salt. And the latest edition too has a very interesting theory. Could Link be dead in Majora's Mask? Judge for yourself after the jump. While I had heard the theory that the 5 areas represent the 5 stages of grief, I just thought it was the people of Termina coming to accept their own fate should the Link fail in his mission and the moon crashes into Clocktown. I never considered the possibility that it could actually be Link accepting his own death. The appearance of those he met during the events of Ocarina of Time would make sense as they are the last people he saw and maybe even grew attached to, like Ruto. The new characters are just his own imagination filling in the blanks. But when would the point be he died? My guess would be when he was thrown off Epona, and the descent through the portal to Termina was his mind battling with itself, on the brink between life and death, rather than it being the fall that killed him. The only thing that doesn't sit right with me was when they mentioned the hero's shade. What Matt says is a good argument and makes sense. But with how tall the hero shade is, it seems as though it is the split of adult Link that is teaching the skills, so he must have still been alive during the events of Majora's Mask to grow into an adult, die, and become the hero shade. But that's just my theory, because I'm not entirely convinced that the theory is true, but it's certainly plausible. And seeing as Majora's Mask and Twilight Princess occur in the same timeline, I'm still hoping for a game where Ganondorf gets into Termina and finds Majora's Mask. What do you think of this? Has the evidence MatPat has provided convinced you, or can you think of any hole in it? Should I give the game another try, taking this theory into account, and see if I like it more? Let us know in the comments below. And that is, could Link be dead in Majora's Mask?
That could actually be real, Rose. But then again, so could this one that I'm about to share with you. This one's called the Doctor Who theory. I'm sure that we all know about the television show Doctor Who, right? Our favorite British science fiction television series? You know, the one about the time-traveling alien who transforms into a new person every time he's dying or mortally wounded. Well, there is some dark truth behind it. There was once a 13-year-old boy named Jonathan Smith who attended an all-boys school in London during the 1940s. Due to his learning disability, he was often scolded by his teachers and bullied by his classmates. He was a troubled young boy, always daydreaming and looking out the window in a sullen or anxious manner. When he was walking home from school one day, he was mugged by some of his classmates from school. They beat him up badly, and he was left unconscious in the street. When he awoke a few hours later, he noticed several artifacts of his were stolen, including his backpack and his shoes. And he also noticed that he had gained a bunch of cuts and scrapes on his arms and legs, as well as a black eye and a gruesome bloody nose. When he got home, his mother scolded him for getting into a fight, and she refused to listen when he attempted to explain that he was mugged. His father had been killed while he was fighting in World War II, so he only had his mom. That night, Jonathan changed from a depressed, tormented boy into a cold-blooded killer. The next day, one of the boys who had mugged him was found dead in his room. His throat was slit open. Jonathan was tired of being bullied and beaten by everyone around him. So he decided that it would happen no more. He would kill all who had tormented him. He decided not to go to school that day, and instead he went to the park all by himself. Surprisingly, the boys from his school showed up at the park, and hearing about their friend's murder, they assumed it was him who had killed the boy. They tried to kill Jonathan. They strangled him and choked him, but he fought back. And the two boys were later found dead, suffering the same fate as the previous boy who had been murdered. When Jonathan faked being sick to avoid going to school one day, his teacher, Mr. Hartnell, was suspicious of him and decided to go to his house to talk to his mother. When Mr. Hartnell decided to call the police on him, Jonathan shot and killed both him and his mother. He then locked their bodies in a trunk down in the cellar of the house. He decided to run away from his now deserted home and live on the streets where no one could find him. He made his own secret hideout in a cavern underneath the streets of London that he had discovered while he was hiding in the sewers from policemen. He began to enjoy killing, so he killed anyone he saw when on the streets of London at night. He killed innocents, helpless innocents, because his tormented physique had told him to do so. Kill for fun, his consciousness had told him. Eventually, the police discovered where Jonathan was hiding, and he was arrested and taken to an insane asylum. In the asylum, he often fell asleep and imagined himself to be on another planet. He called this imaginary planet Gallifrey, and he believed the inhabitants of Gallifrey could change their appearance whenever they were mortally wounded. This was based on how sometimes he would disguise himself whenever police came looking for him. In his imagination, he took the form of Mr. Hartnell and believed that he had taken Hartnell's soul when he had killed him. He believed all his victims' souls were in his body, and that whenever he died in his imaginary world, that he would take the form of his victims. 14 years later, in 1962, a television producer named Sidney Newman visited the asylum where Jonathan was imprisoned to help the children there. Newman was the creator of Doctor Who, and he would create the show 1 year later. He had heard that Jonathan had a good imagination, so he asked him if he could help with his upcoming show. Newman thought of the concept of time travel in the show, and the concept of a telephone box, the TARDIS, as a time machine. It was Jonathan who had invented the concept of Gallifrey and the Time Lords. The first actor who played the Doctor in 1963 was William Hartnell, who bore a resemblance to Mr. Hartnell. Jonathan wanted the Doctor to be just like his imagination, to look like his victims. He was based on Jonathan's personality before he became a killer. The concept of regeneration, when a Time Lord changed their appearance, would not be introduced until 1966. By that time, he was still helping Newman come up with ideas for the show. Every actor that played the Doctor was supposed to look like one of Jonathan's victims, and Newman had done these ideas for the show without knowing what Jonathan had been thinking. The Daleks were based on the boys that bullied Jonathan, and the concept of their toilet plunger arms was based on a time when Jonathan was at school. His bullies had chased him with a toilet plunger to make other children laugh at him. Also, the Doctor's alias, John Smith, is a reference to Jonathan Smith. Jonathan committed suicide in 1974. But Newman kept using all of his ideas. He kept Jonathan's sketches in a folder and used them for Doctor Who episodes. In the present day, Newman is deceased, but his folder with Jonathan's sketches is still used. Each and every incarnation of the Doctor is based on his victims. They just hired someone that looked like his victims to play the Doctor.
Good luck sleeping tonight. You're gonna need it.